Cowboys Nation, this changes everything. A massive wide receiver move just shook up Dallas, and you need to hear this right now. Make sure you hit subscribe and turn on notifications for daily Cowboys updates because the Silver and Blue are making moves that could reshape their entire offensive strategy. Let's break down this bombshell. The Dallas Cowboys have just made their latest chess move in what's becoming an increasingly complex offseason by signing veteran wide receiver Marquez Valdes-Scantling to a one-year deal. This is breaking news that literally just dropped, and while contract details haven't been officially released, this acquisition sends ripples through an already turbulent receiver room in Dallas. For those who might not be familiar with MVS's journey, let me paint you the complete picture. Valdes-Scantling entered the league back in 2018 as a fifth-round pick by the Green Bay Packers, where he established himself as a legitimate deep threat with Aaron Rodgers. Standing at 6'4" with legitimate 4.3 speed, MVS has always been known for his ability to take the top off defenses and create those explosive plays that can change games in an instant. But his career has been something of a roller coaster since leaving Green Bay. In what can only be described as an NFL journeyman tour, MVS has bounced around like a pinball. In 2023, he was catching passes from Patrick Mahomes with the Kansas City Chiefs. Then 2024 saw him splitting time between the Buffalo Bills and New Orleans Saints. And last season, he wore both San Francisco 49ers and Pittsburgh Steelers uniforms. That's 6 different teams in just 4 years, a staggering number that raises serious questions about consistency and locker room fit. The stats from his 2025 campaign tell a concerning story. With the Niners, he hauled in just 4 catches on 8 targets for a mere 40 yards before being released. His stint with the Steelers wasn't much more productive, 21 targets resulting in only 10 receptions for 80 yards, struggling with a catch rate below 50%. All told, that's 120 yards for an entire season. Numbers that would be considered a decent single game for a WR1, not a full campaign. So, why exactly are the Cowboys making this move right now? The timing is fascinating when you consider the overall state of their receiver core. CeeDee Lamb remains the unquestioned alpha, fresh off his monster contract extension that cemented him as the face of this offense. But behind him, that's where things get complicated, and that's putting it mildly. The George Pickens situation continues to cast a massive shadow over the star. Despite reports from Adam Schefter last Thursday that Pickens was set to sign his franchise tag, that signature has yet to materialize. Even more concerning for Cowboys faithful, Pickens reportedly was a no-show at the start of voluntary workouts today. The drama that's been simmering since the trade from Pittsburgh shows no signs of cooling down, and you have to wonder if there's more to this MVS signing than just adding depth. Let's be crystal clear, though. Valdes-Scantling is not a replacement for George Pickens, not even close. You're talking about replacing a dynamic, physically dominant receiver entering his prime with a 30-year-old vertical specialist who hasn't eclipsed 400 receiving yards since 2022. This isn't about replacing Pickens, but it absolutely is about insurance and creating competition further down the depth chart. Jalen Tolbert and Kevontae Turpin both showed flashes last season, with Tolbert finally beginning to deliver on his potential in his 3rd year and Turpin expanding his role beyond return specialist. Second-year man Jalen Fennoy has coaching staff buzzing about his development, but beyond that core 4, the competition is wide open. That's where MVS enters the picture, and where Jonathan Mingo should be getting nervous. The former 4th-round pick has been a massive disappointment since arriving in Dallas, managing just 6 catches for 71 yards. The Cowboys initially envisioned Mingo as an outside receiver who could use his 6'2" frame to win contested catches, but his inability to create separation has been a major issue. With MVS now in the mix, Mingo's roster spot is in serious jeopardy, especially considering he restructured his contract to eliminate guaranteed money. The Cowboys also just drafted Anthony Smith in the 7th round. Interestingly enough, a player with a remarkably similar profile to MVS. Both are lanky, straight-line burners who excel at taking the top off defenses. The parallels are uncanny, and it feels like the Cowboys are doubling down on that specific skill set. Fan reaction across Cowboys Nation has been decidedly mixed. On social media, the responses range from cautious optimism to outright dismissal. As Cowboys for Life tweeted, "Another wash WR when we needed defensive help? Jerry's lost his mind." Meanwhile, a Dallas Cowboys had a more measured take. Low risk, potential high reward. If he can rediscover his Green Bay form, could be a steal. Former Cowboys receiver Dez Bryant weighed in on his podcast this morning, saying, "Speed still plays in this league. MVS can still run, and that opens up things underneath for CeeDee. Don't sleep on this move." ESPN's Dan Orlovsky had a different perspective, noting, "This feels like the Cowboys trying to add a specific skill set rather than overall receiver talent. They need someone who can stretch defenses vertically." The contract details will tell us a lot about how the Cowboys view this acquisition. If this follows the pattern of other veteran minimum deals with minimal guarantees, it's clearly a low-risk flyer on a player who might rediscover his form. The most likely scenario is a veteran minimum contract with incentives that could push it higher if MVS contributes meaningfully. Now, let's talk about what MVS brings to the table when he's at his best. Throughout his career, his calling card has been that game-breaking deep speed. With the Packers, he averaged an impressive 17.5 yards per catch over 4 seasons. That's the kind of vertical threat that can completely change how defenses play you. Safeties have to respect his ability to get behind them, potentially creating more space for Lamb to work underneath and in the intermediate areas. But that speed comes with significant drawbacks. Hands have been an issue throughout his career, with drop rates that have frequently ranked among the highest at his position. In 2020 alone, he dropped 7 passes with Green Bay. While he only had 1 drop last season, that's partly because his opportunities were so limited. The question becomes whether that's a technical issue that can be coached or an inherent limitation. There's also the question of age and athletic decline. Speed-dependent receivers often see their effectiveness diminish once they lose even a step, and at 30 years old, MVS is at the age where that typically begins to happen. Can he still take the top off defenses the way he did in Green Bay and Kansas City? That's what training camp will determine. From a scheme perspective, offensive coordinator Brian Schottenheimer has historically valued having a designated deep threat in his offenses. During his time in Seattle, Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf thrived in those vertical routes. In Dallas, the addition of MVS could signal an intention to incorporate more deep shots into the game plan, especially with Dak Prescott's improved deep ball accuracy over the past 2 seasons. The Cowboys' passing attack ranked among the league's most productive last season, but they sometimes struggled to create explosive plays downfield. According to Next Gen Stats, Dallas ranked just 18th in completions of 20-plus yards, despite Prescott leading the league in passing yards. Adding a specialized deep threat like MVS, even as a rotational piece, could address that specific deficiency. Training camp battles just got a lot more interesting with this signing. Beyond the obvious competition with Mingo, MVS will be battling with UDFA's Jordan Hudson from SMU and Camden Brown for those final receiver spots. The Cowboys typically carry 6 receivers on the final 53-man roster, and with Lamb, Pickens, Fennoy, and Turpin virtually locked in, that leaves just 2 spots for the remaining contenders. What makes this particularly intriguing is how it might affect game day roster decisions. If MVS does make the team, his special teams contributions would be minimal at best. That could give an edge to someone like Hudson, who was a standout returner and gunner in college. NFL rosters are zero-sum games. Every spot comes at the expense of another position. From a cap perspective, this move likely doesn't move the needle much. The Cowboys still have approximately $18 million in cap space, and a veteran minimum deal for MVS would barely make a dent in that figure. This suggests they could still be players for another significant addition before training camp, perhaps that defensive tackle help that fans have been clamoring for all offseason. What's particularly fascinating is how this signing reflects the Cowboys' draft strategy. They clearly entered the draft with receiver on their mind, but traded away their 5th-round pick as part of other moves. Rather than reaching for a receiver earlier than their board dictated, they pivoted to the veteran free agent market post-draft to address the need. It's a textbook example of not letting the draft dictate your moves, but instead using free agency to complement your draft strategy. Looking ahead, what does success look like for this signing? Realistically, if MVS can provide 20-25 receptions, 350-400 yards, and 3 to 4 touchdowns while commanding defensive attention on deep routes, that would be a win for Dallas. He's not here to be a volume receiver. He's here to be a specialized weapon who can contribute in specific situations and packages. The best-case scenario, MVS recaptures the form that made him effective in Green Bay and Kansas City, becoming a legitimate 3rd or 4th option in this passing attack while helping to mentor younger receivers like Smith. The worst case? He doesn't make it out of training camp. becoming just another veteran flyer that didn't pan out, something we've seen plenty of times with the Cowboys in recent years. Remember James Washington? Or Brandon Cooks? The Cowboys have a long history of adding veteran receivers with mixed results. Some, like Amari Cooper, transformed the offense. Others, like Washington, barely made a ripple. Where will MVS fall on that spectrum? This signing also tells us something about how the Cowboys view the current NFL landscape. In a league increasingly dominated by explosive passing attacks, having specialized receivers who excel at specific routes and concepts has become more valuable. Not everyone needs to be a complete receiver. Sometimes having the perfect role player for specific situations is just as valuable. Meanwhile, the uncertainty around Pickens continues to loom large over everything. If, and it remains a big if, Pickens and the Cowboys reach an understanding and he fully buys in, this receiver room suddenly looks legitimately dangerous. Lamb, Pickens, Fennoy, Turpin, and now MVS would give Dallas one of the most diverse and complementary receiving corps in the NFL. But the clock is ticking. With each passing day that Pickens doesn't sign his tag, questions will continue to mount. Is this just typical offseason negotiation theatrics, or is there a deeper disconnect between player and team? The addition of MVS doesn't answer that question, but it does give Dallas another option as they navigate these choppy waters. As training camp approaches, all eyes will be on the star to see how this receiver room shakes out. Will MVS show enough to earn a significant role? Can Mingo finally live up to his draft position? Will Pickens sign his tag and fully commit to the Cowboys? These storylines will dominate Cowboys coverage throughout the summer. One thing is certain, this isn't the last move the Cowboys will make before the season kicks off. Jerry Jones has never been shy about making headlines, and with legitimate Super Bowl aspirations, don't be surprised if there are more significant additions to come. The championship window with this core is now, and every move is being made with that urgency in mind. So Cowboys Nation, what's your reaction to the MVS signing? Drop a comment below with your thoughts, and don't forget to smash that subscribe button for more breaking Cowboys news as it happens. This is just the beginning of what promises to be an eventful offseason in Dallas. Stay tuned.